My beloved child. Stop scrolling for a moment. Do not move past this message too quickly. Something has been trying to reach your spirit for longer than you realize, and somehow, through all the noise, through all the distractions, through all the ordinary moments of this day, you were guided here. Not by accident. Not by chance. But by design. Because what you are about to hear is not casual. It is not ordinary. It is not random. It is deeply personal. And though this message is wrapped in mystery, though it may feel almost too intimate, as if someone has opened a window into places no human eye should easily see, your heart will recognize the truth hidden inside it. There has been movement around your name. Quiet movement. Unseen movement. The kind of movement that happens behind closed doors, in rooms you have never entered, in conversations you were never meant to overhear. And recently, your soulmate's family spoke about you. Yes. They spoke about you. Not once. Not lightly. And what was said left an impression so deep that even now, the energy of that moment still lingers. You did not hear their voices. You did not see their expressions. But something inside you felt it. That strange pull. That unexplained heaviness. That unusual restlessness in your spirit. The reason you could not fully settle. The reason your heart kept asking silent questions. The reason your soul kept looking toward the future as if it knew something was coming. Because it did know. Your spirit felt the ripple. And tonight, heaven is allowing you to understand why. Listen carefully. There is someone connected to your destiny who has been carrying your name in their heart. Your soulmate. Perhaps they have not met you yet. Perhaps they know you already. Perhaps they have stood in your presence without either of you understanding what was truly happening. But whether near or far, known or unknown, their spirit has been moving toward yours. And as that movement intensified, their family began to notice. They noticed a change in them. A softness. A distraction. A mysterious glow. Moments of silence where there used to be noise. Smiles with no visible cause. Thoughtfulness where there had once been certainty. Questions where there had once been answers. And families notice these things. Especially the people who love them most. Especially those who have known them since childhood. They began asking quiet questions. Who are you thinking about? What has changed? Why do you seem different lately? At first, your soulmate tried to dismiss it. They laughed it off. They changed the subject. They avoided the truth, not because they wished to hide you, but because they themselves did not fully understand what was happening. How do you explain to others what your soul feels before your mind can define it? How do you tell people, I feel someone approaching my life? How do you confess, I think someone I may not even know yet has already changed me? You do not. You carry it silently. And that is what your soulmate did. Until they could not anymore. Until one evening, perhaps unexpectedly, perhaps after a long day, perhaps during a family gathering when emotions were already close to the surface, someone asked one question too many. And something shifted. The walls lowered. The truth began to rise. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But enough. Enough for your name to enter the room. Not necessarily your literal name. Perhaps they do not know it yet. But your presence. Your energy. Your existence. That someone they cannot stop thinking about. That someone they feel destined to meet. That someone who has somehow become emotionally real before physically arriving. That someone is you. And once your presence entered that room, the atmosphere changed. One family member leaned forward. Another became unusually quiet. Someone exchanged a glance with someone else. And suddenly the conversation was no longer casual. It became sacred. Because your soulmate spoke differently than they ever had before. Not with confusion. Not with fantasy. But with conviction. They described what they felt. They said there is someone. Someone they cannot explain. Someone who feels familiar. Someone who feels safe. Someone whose energy feels like home. Someone who makes their future feel less empty. And when those words were spoken, their family felt it too. That is what shocked them. Not the idea of love. Not the possibility of romance. But the depth. The seriousness. The unmistakable sincerity. Your soulmate was not speaking like someone chasing temporary emotion. They were speaking like someone who had been touched by destiny. And families recognize that. Even when they do not fully understand it. Especially older souls in the family. The grandmother who notices things no one else notices. The mother who feels what is unspoken. The father who hides emotion but senses truth. The sibling who watches quietly. One by one, they felt it. This is real. This matters. This person, whoever they are, is important. You became important to people who have never even met you. Can you understand how extraordinary that is? People who do not know your face. People who have never heard your laugh. People who have never sat beside you. And yet, they felt the weight of your existence. That is because destiny carries its own fragrance. It announces itself. It enters rooms before people do. And when true alignment is near, even strangers begin to feel its arrival. But there was more. Something happened during that conversation that your soulmate did not expect. Someone in the family said something that stopped everyone. A simple sentence. Quiet. But powerful. It may have been an elder. It may have been someone who rarely speaks. But when they spoke, the room listened. They said, if this person makes your spirit this peaceful before they have even arrived, imagine what your life becomes when they do. Silence followed. Not awkward silence. Holy silence. The kind that feels like heaven has leaned closer. And your soulmate could not answer. Because they were already imagining it. Already imagining your voice. Your eyes. Your presence. Already imagining what it would feel like to sit across from you. Already imagining the first real conversation. Already imagining the moment recognition happens. That moment when both souls realize. It was you. It has always been you. And child. Do you know what happened next? Their family began speaking about you as if you were already part of them. Not officially. Not physically. But emotionally, they wondered what kind of person you are. They wondered what your heart looks like. They wondered what pain shaped you. What victory strengthened you. What tears softened you. They asked what kind of life you have lived. What made you become the soul capable of touching someone they love this deeply. They became curious about you. Protective of you. Interested in you. And strangely, grateful for you. Grateful. Because your existence has already healed something in your soulmate. Something their family has watched for years. Something they prayed about in private. Something they worried might never change. A loneliness. A guardedness. A wound. A fear of vulnerability. Your soulmate carried something heavy for a long time. Longer than most people know. They learned how to function while protecting old pain. They learned how to smile while carrying invisible disappointments. They learned how to survive. But they forgot how to expect something beautiful. Until you. Even before meeting you fully, your energy began changing that. And their family noticed. They noticed laughter returning. Hope returning. Tenderness returning. They noticed them becoming more open. More alive. More human. Do you understand what that means? You have already started healing someone you may not even know. Without effort. Without trying. Without even speaking. Because some souls are medicine. And yours is. That is why this conversation mattered. It was not gossip. It was recognition. Recognition that something larger than human planning is happening. But I must tell you something else. Something even deeper. Not everyone in that room reacted the same way. There was one person. One voice. One heart. Who felt something unusual. A hesitation. A pause. Not resistance. Concern. Protective concern. They asked a difficult question. What if this person hurts you? And suddenly the room changed again. Because that question matters. It always matters when love becomes real. Your soulmate did not answer immediately. They looked down. They thought. And then they said something no one expected. They said, I do not feel fear when I think of them. Do you hear that? I do not feel fear when I think of them. That is how they know. That is how they knew. Because your energy does not bring anxiety. It brings peace. And peace is heaven's signature. Fear shouts. Destiny whispers. And your soulmate has heard the whisper. That answer changed everything. The concerned heart softened. The room exhaled. And then, one by one, the family began blessing something they could not yet see. You. Without knowing your name. Without knowing your story. They blessed your future. They blessed your arrival. They blessed your connection. Some silently. Some internally. Some perhaps with spoken words. But blessing moved through that room. Toward you. Do you understand what that means? You have already been prayed for by people you have never met. Their prayers crossed distance. Their hopes crossed time. Their love moved ahead of introduction. And it found you. That is why you feel emotional right now. That is why something inside your chest feels stirred. That is why your eyes may suddenly feel heavier. Because your spirit recognizes being called. And your soul remembers what your mind forgot. You are not walking toward emptiness. You are walking toward something prepared. Prepared carefully. Prepared lovingly. Prepared spiritually. But there is something your soulmate's family does not know. Not yet. They do not know your side. They do not know what you have endured. They do not know the nights you cried alone. The prayers you whispered into darkness. The disappointments you survived. The people who misunderstood you. The love that almost destroyed your trust. The moments you wanted to give up. They do not know how many times you rebuilt yourself. How many versions of yourself had to die so this version could live. They do not know your scars. But heaven does. And heaven has not ignored them. Every tear was counted. Every heartbreak was recorded. Every moment of loneliness was witnessed. Nothing was wasted. Not one ache. Not one disappointment. Not one unanswered prayer. It was all preparation. You were being shaped. Not punished. Refined. Not abandoned. Positioned. Not delayed without reason. And now, the season is changing. Can you feel it? That subtle shift? That invisible turning? Something is moving. Doors are beginning to unlock. Paths are beginning to align. Conversations are beginning before introductions. Families are discussing futures they do not yet fully understand. And your name, your energy, is already being spoken where your feet have not yet walked. But here is where the mystery deepens. Because after that conversation ended, after the family dispersed, after the dishes were put away, after the room emptied, your soulmate remained behind. Alone. Thinking. Quiet. Not because they were uncertain. Because they were overwhelmed. The reality had become undeniable. You were no longer an abstract possibility. You had become emotionally real. And that frightened them slightly. Not because they feared you. Because they suddenly understood how much they could love you. Before even meeting you. That kind of realization humbles a person. It makes them vulnerable. It strips away pride. It exposes the heart. And your soulmate sat with that feeling. Long after everyone else had moved on. They whispered something softly. Something no one heard. But heaven heard it. And now you are being allowed to feel its echo. They said. Whoever they are, protect them. Pause there. Let that settle. Whoever they are, protect them. Do you understand? They prayed for you. Not knowing your name. Not knowing your location. Not knowing your face. And yet they prayed. That is how strong this connection is. It crossed logic. It crossed distance. It crossed explanation. And heaven listened. That prayer reached the throne. And heaven answered. Yes. But not only with protection. With timing. Because timing matters. Too early, and love becomes pressure. Too late, and pain hardens the heart. But perfect timing? Perfect timing creates miracles. That is what is being prepared. And still, there is something you do not know. Something your soulmate's family noticed that even your soulmate did not notice. Something subtle. Something hidden. Something revealed only to those watching closely. During the conversation, when your soulmate spoke about you, their eyes changed. Their face softened. Their entire energy transformed. And one family member saw it immediately. They saw the unmistakable look of someone who had already fallen. Not into obsession. Into devotion. That realization startled them. Because your soulmate, the one who guards their heart so fiercely, had already begun surrendering it to you. That is why the family conversation was so important. It confirmed what their spirit already knew. You matter. More than you realize. More than you have been told. More than you currently understand. And child, while all this was happening there, something was happening in you too. Perhaps you felt unusual fatigue recently. Or sudden emotion. Or random memories. Or dreams that felt too vivid. Or a longing you could not explain. That was not random. Souls communicate before mouths do. Hearts recognize before eyes do. Energy arrives before footsteps. You have been feeling them too. Even if you could not name it. Because this union affects more than two people. It affects bloodlines. Future children. Family wounds. Long-standing prayers. Promises whispered by grandparents. Dreams abandoned by parents. This love carries repair. That is why heaven guards it so carefully. That is why delays happened. That is why lessons were necessary. Because something sacred cannot be rushed. And now, the preparation is nearing completion. But listen. Do not mistake nearing for immediate. Do not force what heaven is unfolding. Do not chase what is already being guided toward you. Your assignment is not pursuit. It is readiness. Stay soft. Stay open. Stay faithful. Do not let old pain teach you to reject new love. Do not let disappointment convince you that beautiful things are not meant for you. They are. This is why this message found you. To remind you. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not too late. Something has already begun. Even if your eyes cannot yet confirm it. But there is one final detail from that family conversation that I have not yet told you. And this is the part that changes everything. At the very end, as everyone prepared to leave, someone stopped at the doorway, turned back, looked directly at your soulmate, and asked one last question. A question so piercing it silenced the room again. They asked, "If this person appeared tomorrow, would you be ready?" Your soulmate froze. Because suddenly it was no longer about dreaming. It was about reality. Would they be ready? Could they receive what they had prayed for? Could they hold what heaven was sending? Could they love without fear? Could they trust without retreating? They did not answer immediately. And that silence told everyone something important. Your soulmate realized they still had something to do. One final piece of healing. One final act of surrender. One final wall to release. And child, so do you. That is why this message reached you tonight. Because before this meeting happens, before these paths fully collide, before this story becomes visible, something inside you must shift. One last thing. One last surrender. One last release. A fear. A wound. A memory. A belief that says, maybe love is not safe. That belief cannot go where you are going. It must be left here. At this moment. At this threshold. Because what is coming next cannot enter a guarded heart. And now heaven is asking you quietly. Are you ready? Not for fantasy. Not for attention. Not for temporary affection. For real love. For soul-deep love. For the kind that rearranges your future. Because your soulmate is being asked the same question tonight. And somewhere, perhaps at this exact moment, they are answering it. But what they said, what they finally whispered after everyone had gone, what they confessed when no one else was listening, what they admitted aloud for the first time, that you are not yet ready to hear. That revelation belongs to something remained unfinished after that night. Not in the room. Not in the conversation. Inside your soulmate. After their family had gone to sleep, after the lights had dimmed, after the house became quiet enough for even thoughts to sound loud, they sat alone. And silence began speaking. You must understand this moment. Because some moments change lives without anyone noticing. This was one of them. They replayed every word. Every question. Every expression on their families' faces. Every subtle reaction. And for the first time, what had once felt like imagination began to feel dangerously real. Not dangerous because it was wrong. Dangerous because it was true. Truth changes everything. Truth dismantles defenses. Truth removes excuses. And your soulmate could no longer hide behind uncertainty. The possibility of you had become undeniable. You were no longer a distant hope. You had become an approaching reality. And when that realization settled into their spirit, their heart began to tremble. Not with fear. With reverence. Because they knew. They knew this was not ordinary attraction. This was not temporary excitement. This was not loneliness inventing fantasy. This was deeper. Older. Sacred. The kind of connection souls remember before minds can explain. And so they whispered something. A confession. A sentence so vulnerable they had never said it aloud before. They said, I think I have already started loving them. Those words changed the atmosphere. Heaven heard them. And in the moment those words were released, something shifted. A gate opened. A spiritual permission was granted. Because love spoken honestly carries power. Not performative love. Not dramatic love. Honest love. The kind that emerges quietly and changes everything. And child. When those words left their lips, your spirit felt it. That was the ache in your chest. That was the unexplained emotion. That was the sudden pause you felt in the middle of ordinary moments. That was not your imagination. That was resonance. Soul meeting soul across distance. And your soulmate sat there afterward, overwhelmed. They placed their hand over their chest, closed their eyes, and allowed themselves to imagine you. Not the version of you created by fantasy. The real you. Your flaws. Your wounds. Your laughter. Your fears. Your tenderness. Your strength. They imagined all of it. And what surprised them most was that none of it scared them. It drew them closer. Because true love does not run from imperfection. It moves toward it with compassion. That is what began happening inside them. They began loving the parts of you they have not yet seen. And that is rare. That is holy. But while this was happening, something else was happening in another room. One member of their family could not sleep. An older soul. Someone spiritually sensitive. Someone who has learned to trust quiet intuition. This person kept thinking about you. Though they did not know your face. Though they did not know your name. They felt your energy. And they began praying. Not loudly. Not ceremonially. Just softly. Whoever this person is, bring them safely. Bring them healed. Bring them at the right time. That prayer matters more than you know. Because blessings spoken in sincerity create pathways. They clear resistance. They soften timing. They invite peace. And that blessing found you. Even now, it is wrapping around you. That is why your spirit feels calmer while hearing this. That is why something inside you feels strangely reassured. You are being covered. Protected. Prepared. But I must tell you what happened next. The following morning, your soulmate woke differently. The world looked the same. But they did not. Something inside them had settled. A certainty. A quiet knowing. And when people carry certainty, they begin changing. They started letting go of distractions. Things that once mattered suddenly felt meaningless. Conversations that once entertained them felt empty. Connections that once felt acceptable felt misaligned. Because once the heart senses what is real, it loses appetite for what is false. And your soulmate began clearing space. Without fully realizing it. They were making room for you. This is what heaven does. Before blessing arrives, it creates capacity. Before love enters, it removes clutter. Before union happens, it creates room. That process has been happening in you too. Things have been leaving your life. Some painfully. Some unexpectedly. People. Patterns. Comfort zones. Versions of yourself. And you wondered why. Now you know. Space was being created. You were not losing. You were making room. But there is one truth you must hear clearly. Your soulmate's family did not only talk about you. They recognized you. Not by face. By effect. They saw what your unseen presence had already done. And one of them said something quietly later that day. Something your soulmate did not hear. They said, whoever this person is, they are already healing you. That sentence was true. And it remains true now. Because love begins before meeting. Healing begins before introduction. Preparation begins before arrival. And what has begun cannot be undone. Yet, there remains one final barrier. One final threshold. And it exists in both of you. For your soulmate, it is vulnerability. For you, it is trust. You have learned how to survive disappointment. You have learned how to carry pain without collapsing. You have learned how to protect your own heart. But protection can quietly become isolation. And isolation can disguise itself as strength. Heaven is asking you to notice that. Because what is coming cannot fully enter a locked heart. You do not need to be reckless. You do not need to abandon wisdom. But you must become willing. Willing to receive. Willing to be seen. Willing to let love be gentle. That is harder than most people admit. And that is the lesson being placed before you now. Because your soulmate has already begun saying yes. They are saying yes to you. Without your face. Without your voice. Without your hand in theirs. They are saying yes. The question is, will you? Not to a person you have not met. To the possibility that love may finally arrive differently than pain did. That it may not wound you. That it may not betray you. That it may not leave. Can you allow that possibility? Because if you can, everything changes. And now I must tell you the final moment. The one that matters most. That night, before sleeping, your soulmate looked upward. No audience. No performance. Just sincerity. And they said, if they are real, send me a sign. Do you know what happened next? Within hours, you found this message. That is your sign. Not because this script is magical. Not because words themselves create destiny. But because timing speaks. And this timing is speaking loudly. You were meant to hear this. To remember. To prepare. To soften. To trust. Something is moving toward you. Not randomly. Intentionally. Carefully. Lovingly. And soon. Very soon. What has been spiritual will begin becoming visible. The conversations will become encounters. The prayers will become meetings. The longing will become presence. And when that day comes, you will realize none of this was coincidence. It was orchestration. But until then, guard your peace. Protect your softness. Do not chase. Do not panic. Do not force what heaven is already arranging. Let it come. Let it unfold. Let it arrive with dignity. Because what belongs to you does not need to be hunted. It recognizes its way home. And somewhere tonight, your soulmate is thinking of someone they cannot yet name. Smiling at someone they cannot yet touch. Praying for someone they cannot yet hold. That someone is you.